Hello, I'm Paul Carroll, technical writer for Digital Photo Magazine, and welcome to this Understanding RAW video tutorial on toning. Adding a mono or duo tone effect is an eye-catching way to present your images, with either a classic single colour monotone effect, like the one we have here on the left, or even a more adventurous split tone effect that uses different toning colours for the shadows and the highlights, like the one that we have on the right. If you're working in RAW and you're using the full version of Photoshop, then there's really no need to go into the main image editing area to add these classy effects, when you can do it all within the Camera Raw interface using the Split Tone tab. It's really easy, and I'll show you how it's done. Start by opening the image flower.dng from off this month's CD into the full version of Photoshop. But I'm afraid if you're using Photoshop Elements to convert your RAW files, then this technique isn't compatible. First off, select the HSL Grayscale tab, which is the fourth tab along, and at the top of the palette simply click the Convert to Grayscale box, and that will render your image black and white. Now the main tab that we're using for this technique is the Split Tone tab, and that's the next tab along. And you can see that the controls within this tab are split into three groups: Highlights, Balance, and Shadows. Under both the Highlight and the Shadow sections there are two sliders. Hue is for controlling the toning colour, and Saturation allows you to set the colour strength. The Balance slider, here in the middle, controls how the toning colour that you add is weighted between the highlights and the shadows, allowing you to really fine-tune a split tone effect for the best results. For a single monotone effect, set the balance to +100, and I'm doing that simply by clicking and dragging on the slider. And once I've set it to +100, only the controls under the highlight section will take effect on the image. So now if I use the saturation slider under the highlight and boost the saturation to, say, around 50, you can now see that we've toned our flower a nice red colour. Obviously we don't have to stick to a red tone, however, and simply by clicking on the hue slider and dragging through the colour spectrum, we can select any toning colour that we like. So I was quite happy with that cyanotype cool blue tone which we had in the example image, and that's going to be a hue of around 225. So settle on any colour that you like, and then you can fine tune the saturation. I think that this blue's a little bit too bold for my taste, so I'm just going to knock that saturation back a little bit, and we'll go for a saturation of around +30, and that's looking much more subtle. So you can see how really easy it is to add a toning effect in the Camera Raw interface. And it's just as easy to add a classic split tone effect too. All you need to do is set the balance back to 0, so colour from both the highlight and the shadow section will take effect on our image. Then set a hue and saturation for each of the tonal regions to split tone the image. In the highlights, I'm going to go for a gentle yellow tone with a hue of around 56, and I'm going to increase the saturation to around 60. And something to bear in mind when you're split toning, always use a lighter, more gentle colour for the highlights, because that will create a more pleasing split tone finish. Now I need to set the hue and the saturation for the darker end of the tonal register, and I can do that, as I say, using the sliders under the shadow section. We can be a bit bolder with our choice of hue here, as a more punchy and vivid tone will really create a nice contrast against the gentle yellow hues that we've added to the highlights. So I'm going to go for a strong teal colour using a hue of 176, and I'll set the saturation to around 40. And there you go. By entering values into the shadows and the highlights, you can see that we've already started to split tone the image. Now we can just use the balance slider to determine how the colour from these shadow and highlight regions are applied on our image. Leaving it set to 0 means the colour from these two tonal regions is applied in equal measure. Or by shifting the slider to the left, we give more prominence to the teal which we've added to the shadows. Similarly, if we move the slider to the right and into positive values, then we're giving precedent to the yellows in the highlights, and you can see that there's hardly any teal toning coming through at all now. I quite liked it when we were bringing some more of the teal through, so I'm just going to move the slider back down and I'm going to set it to around -40, which is giving us a nice strong teal finish, which is just bringing through a hint of yellow into the highlights. And once you're happy with your toning, all you need to do is hit the done button to save your adjustment and your raw file. I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial. Give it a go using the start image off the CD and then get toning and split toning your own raw files in the future. Cheers!